All right, we call to order the Planning Commission meeting of November 25th. Can we get roll call, please?
Commissioner Isiano,
Present.
Commissioner Fajardo,
Present.
Commissioner Lopez, Vice Chairperson Franz, Chairperson Rodriguez Ceja,
Present.
Commissioner Lopez and Vice Chairperson Franz is absent.
Thank you. And we'll have Commissioner Fajardo lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Moving on to public comments for items not on the agenda.
There are none.
Thank you. And we have some minutes from the Planning Commission meeting on October 11th. Are there any questions or comments from the Commission?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of October 11th, 2023, as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Commissioner Fajardo,
Yes?
Vice Chairperson Rodriguez Ceja,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, moving on to our public hearing items. Item 5.1, request for time uncertain on Resolution 2055. Do we have a staff report?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Kevin Snyder, Director of Community Development. This item is a request for continuance to date and time uncertain. As the Commission is aware, this project originally came to the Planning Commission on July 26, 2023. There have been successive requests for continuance as the applicant continues to refine the project plans at the direction of the Planning Commission to respond to the outstanding conditions of approval that were identified by staff and recommended to be addressed before it went to City Council. As you may remember, at the July 26 meeting, you asked that the applicant address those conditions before the Commission make any recommendation to Council. They have been working on that. They've had some timing challenges with support services, architectural, and others. So the applicant is hopeful that they will be able to come back, hopefully at the next meeting, to be able to continue the dialogue with the Planning Commission before you make your decision. So because we do not have an exact date, the procedure would be to request to a date and time uncertain, which will require renoticing, both in the public record newspaper as well as to property owners within 500 feet of the subject property. Happy to answer any questions the Commission might have. Staff is recommending the continuance to a date and a time uncertain, and again, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the two of you? I actually do have a question, Kevin. What is the time frame that we need to do for the public notice before they can come to us?
10 days, minimum 10 days. That includes publication within the newspaper and notice to the property owner. So for example, if they wanted to come on the November 8th agenda, we would have to have that publication occur by next. Actually, I think we've already passed the deadline. They'd have to go to the next meeting after that. So, for example, the next meeting after that, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, will be December 13th.
Okay, well, that gives them some time. And then my other question is, have we received any sort of documentation saying that the process is moving? And it's a two-part. One is, are we doing anything to stall that? And then the second question is, are there any sort of time limitations for applicants to come back with, extending this design review process?
So I've been in communications with the applicant and his team, and they are going through there were 26 outstanding conditions that you had asked them to review. The architect has addressed the architectural related conditions. The landscape architect had some timing issues related to other project work, so he was delayed in his work. So they are making movement. As a follow-up to your question, The current city code does not specify that there are only so many continuances. That is at the discretion of the planning commission. Typically, what the commission has done as a business practice is to honor those requests. If, however, the commission wanted to say, for example, we will grant you the continuance to a date and time uncertain, but we will not grant any other continuances, that is within your purview. I think out of respect to the applicant, if that was the sentiment of the commission, then it would be my job to transmit to them that the commission has approved your request to a date and time uncertain, but basically you need to come back after we identify your next hearing date and participate in the conversation with the commission and take your chances, so to speak. So you do have discretion on how many times you are willing to approve a motion, but there is no code-related time restriction on how many requests for continuances can be asked for.
Got it, thank you. Do we acknowledge that? Yeah, okay. No questions? No, okay. All right, any other questions for staff? No? All right, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you.
Go ahead and like to motion that the request for a date and time uncertain continuance, the public hearing for Resolution 2055, the request for the Planning Commission for conditional approval, recommendation to the City Council for conditional use permit, and plan and review permit land use entitlement applications for the development of an 8-pump station with covered fuel island canopy, 2,038 square foot convenience market, on-site and landscaping on a .87 acre parcel on the corner of Indio Boulevard, Requa Avenue, and Flower Street, identified as number 611-373-041.
I'll second.
Can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Commissioner Fajardo,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Chairperson Rodriguez Ceja.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5.2, Resolution 2075.
Also,
conditional-
for the record, just want to notate that Commissioner Lopez arrived at 6:05.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't hear you. On the previous item, technically you should. So if we can take a moment and go back to the previous item, the chair should open the public hearing, see if there's any public comment, and then close it. Thank you.
All right, so still on item 5.1, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Do we have any public comments?
There are none.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. We don't need to vote again because we made the resolution, so you should be good to go. All right, thank you. Moving on to 5.2, staff report.
Oh, there we go. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Audrey Nickerson, Senior Planner. This evening, I'll be presenting the Golden Triangle Business Park Lots 9 and 13 project. The project applicant is seeking approval from the Planning Commission for planning review and a CEQA categorical exemption pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15332 for infill development. On May 10th, 2023, Michael J. Crow submitted an application for design review on behalf of JDG Properties for the proposed development of a 27,500 square foot warehouse and office building. The proposed development includes parking, trash enclosures, driveways, storm retention, landscape, and hardscape. The project site is zoned heavy industrial with a general plan land use designation of workplace and employment district. It's not working. Oh, I got it. Okay. The proposed project would be developed on approximately 2.5 acres at the southwest corner of Market Street and Fleming Way. The project site's located directly north of the Union Pacific Railroad tracks, and other existing developments in the vicinity of the project site include self-storage facilities, towing companies, construction mechanical supply companies, and warehouses. As you can see from the project location map, it is an infill development with existing development on either side. The 27,500 square foot building would include 2 suites. An access driveway will be installed on Fleming Way at the southeast portion of the site, providing access to Suite A. A second access driveway will be installed near the northwest corner of the site on Market Street, providing access to Suite B. The proposed project will include 49 parking spaces, 13 of which would be accessible to the public near the entrance to each suite. The remainder of the site would be enclosed by a block wall. Employees and trucks must access the site through a metal gate just beyond the public parking at each suite. The loading docks would be concentrated on the south side of the building. That would be the furthest from Market Street and Fleming, furthest from the public right-of-way. And then on-site stormwater would be directed towards a retention basin developed at the northern portion of the site adjacent to the roadway. The floor plan shows the layout of the building split into 2 suites. As you can see, the majority of the building will be devoted to warehouse space with approximately 1,275 square feet of office space for each suite. The reception area within these office spaces would be the primary entrance to each suite. The proposed building would be 29 feet 4 inches tall, and that includes approximately 5-foot parapet to shield rooftop equipment. The exterior of the building would consist primarily of cement plaster, smooth finish, coated in a tan acrylic paint. The design, building articulations are focused primarily around the main entrances and also areas on the north side of the building adjacent to the roadway. These are areas of recessed portions of the building that are painted a darker tan color, so they stand out and it's easy to identify the entrance. The site will be enclosed by a 7-foot tall block wall with steel pickets at the top, and steel gates would be located where vehicle and pedestrian access are required. And that's for the majority of the site that's close to the public. The project landscape would utilize desert, native, and drought-resistant plants. 5 tree species are proposed in the landscape plan. Palms are primarily focused along the roadway and the access points, and shade trees would be included in the parking areas to provide natural shade. A variety of shrubs and cacti are also proposed around the perimeter of the retention basin, along the roadway, and along the perimeter of the site. Several flowering species are proposed to add color and texture, including bougainvillea, Texas Ranger, and purple, I just went blank, sorry guys. Purple lantana. Staff has determined that the proposed project is compliant with the City of Indio General Plan, and the project is compliant with the City of Indio Unified Development Code. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15332 for infill development. So with the application of relevant conditions of approval, the project can be approved. The conditions of approval are binding and must be adhered to. This concludes my staff presentation. I'm available for questions, and the applicant is also here to provide additional information.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that great presentation. I know it was your first time here with us, so thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? I just have one question. Have we heard about who isn't a possible tenant in this space, or?
The applicant will be better able to answer that question just because it is pertaining to their operational and business practices. At this time, in the time of the publication of the staff report, they had not been identified.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing and let the applicant come up and give us their presentation.
Good evening, Audrey. Thank you. My name is Bill Struett. I'm the manager of JDG Properties. I, along with myself, Patrick Fleming, please stand up, is also a manager of JDG Properties. I'd like to do three things tonight. The first thing I'd like to do is go through this presentation real quick, some of which Audrey has already gone through. And then I'm going to go through a little bit about JDG and then the development of the property itself. So if you would, flip the slide, please. Here we go. I'm good. So as I said, JDG Properties, we've been in business since 1993, and I'll go over a little bit later about JDG and introduce myself. Tonight we have the architect, Timothy Bunch. He's back there. Tim has designed several of these buildings. I'm going to go through several of them that we built here in the Indio area. We also have the builder from Construction Zone, that's Brandon Topolin. He and his father have built all the buildings that are currently in our business park. As we indicated, it's a 27,500 square foot commercial building with about 2,500 feet of office. We've seen the footprint, the location we've talked about. We've identified the location. These other buildings to the right there of that X, that red X, are our buildings. I'm going to show you those in just a second, owned by JDG. So this is the layout. So lot 9 there is the proposed building. The other buildings are our buildings, a little bit, and when we built those, the construction, materials, and all the rest. This is the vacant land they're proposing to build. As you can see, it's an infill project. We look forward to building this as this is the last of the completion of that whole sector going forward. We've looked at the rendering of the building from the front. We looked at the plan. These are the colors. I put this slide in to indicate some of the businesses that are currently in the business park. Those include Stutz Packaging with 100 employees, Fantasy Springs with 7, Mission Tortilla 12. Highmark Distributing has 5 over there, and then Highmark has another building with it's the beer distribution company here in the desert that has well over 180. Vortex Doors at 2, Fit for King 15, JD Mechanical at 20, Light Company. This gives you a flavor for the businesses that are in our buildings currently. Last slide will show some pictures of our other buildings. That's building 4. As you can see, it's a nice building, fits well with the community. Building 5 and the other one. Okay, a little bit about JDG. JDG was started in 1993. The first building we built was in 82689 Avenue 45. It's one of those buildings that you saw. Currently, Stutz is the tenant. It's 35,000 square feet. We then came along in 1996, and we built Building 2, which Fantasy Spring and Stutz currently operate, and that's 15,000 feet. We built Building 3. That has 15,000 feet, and Mission Foods is in that building. Building 4, which has 6 different suites. That's what all those ones we showed along there. all right, including Highmark and Vortex and JD King, JD Mechanical, and there's 53,000 square feet in total in those buildings. We also have some buildings we haven't built, two of which. One is off of Monroe there. JDG Property owns for Ferguson. It's the building to the right. Another quality building. The last building we purchased just recently was over off of Oleander. Whitecap's in that building. And that building has 16,000 feet. As you can see, we build good business, we build good business, or build good buildings, and we're really trying to be proud of the business park that we built. Considering the needs of the community, the needs of businesses. And I know we haven't built in a while. We had the recession hit. But we're pretty excited about this building, as it's a point in time when there absolutely is a need for commercial space, especially in this area. I'd like to take a minute to talk about the team. Like I said, we've been in business in the real estate. This real estate partnership has been in business for quite a few years. First of all, the financial backing. There's two major players, the Highmark family. They've been in the valley for many, many years. The second player is the Fleming family, which Patrick is part of, and they've been in the business, been in the local community for many, many years. We've also had the same architect, Tim Bunch, who designs very good buildings, and we're very proud to have him on our team. Lastly, the gentleman that we're proposing to build this building is from Construction Zone. His name is Brandon. He's been active in the community. He, along with his father, has built many of the buildings here in the valley. Together, this team builds good quality buildings. As you can see, if you drive by the area, we're very proud of those buildings, and they represent the community quite well. At this point, I'd welcome questions. If not, I'll turn it over. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant? No? No? Okay. My question for staff earlier, do we have potential companies that are interested in occupying your
Not
space?
at this time.
Okay, great. And roughly, I know you gave us a rundown of the types of companies and the amount of employees, this being, heavy industrial zone, what is it that, you commonly see, the types of companies, what are the amounts of employees that, if you had to make an average, what could we expect for local jobs to be created through this project?
I also have another person here, Polo Doria. He actually does all of our real estate leasing and all that. I'd like to bring him up at this time because he'll give you a better flavor for what he's looking for and the perfect tenant for this building.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners, staff. Thank you for that report. My name is Polo Doria. Marketing for this complex for 34 years. I leased the first building and been with JDG all that time. One of the biggest treasures in that process has been the ability to draw jobs. I have been in so many spaces and seen so many jobs. You have one of the highest concentrations, actually, right there among those buildings of jobs in the city of Indio. Stutz Packing is amazing. They started with 20 people. They're up to about 135, run 3 shifts a day. So all of these buildings fundamentally are magnets. We don't know yet. I'm so excited about the speculative nature of this particular complex. I've been waiting for this one for 7 years. So I'm excited to get it up. I do have some interest, nothing solid yet, but I'm fairly certain that we can fill this rather quickly, given the market conditions.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Chair,
Yes, please.
if I could add just one, and Mr. Doria could probably attest to this better than me, but we are aware from our economic development team that in the industrial market segment that this would propose to operate in, the city has roughly about a 1% vacancy rate. So in terms of enticing new businesses here or having opportunities for existing businesses to expand, it's a very tight market. So introducing new space into this market is certainly beneficial for the city's economic development goals.
Great.
Can I add that
Yes,
in conjunction with the city, I conduct an annual industrial building kind of a tour. I do it every year. and we go into 3 or 4 of these businesses, and you can come and see. We invite the planning commission, we invite the council, so please join us. Thank you.
Yeah, keep us posted. Thank you very much. All right, we'll go ahead and see if, do we have any public comments?
There are none.
Okay, great. So we can go into deliberation. Any
Chair,
yes, please.
You technically have to close the public hearing.
We're closing the public hearing now, and then we're going into deliberations. Thank you, Kevin. Any comments? Yep.
Just like to say thank you very much for the presentation from both staff and the developer, the folks that are involved in staff. I certainly do appreciate the tan contrast, the ability for folks to identify that entrance. Initially, when I was looking at also the delivery area, it kind of gave me a little bit of pause, but during the explanation and the more detailed plan and started looking at that, I think we're going to be okay. So for the most part, I just want to say thank you for being such good stewards of our community.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I want to say, well, first of all, that landscape plan, I want to thank the landscape architect for those shade trees in the parking. That is like a personal thing that comes up in every review that I'm doing. So I want to say thank you for that attention to detail. Shade, particularly for these folks, the folks that are going to be there parking their cars there for 8 hours a day, is going to be very crucial during the summer months when they're going to work or when they're going home from work. So thank you to that. And I also am really excited to see continued interest in the city and creating more local jobs. So we're really excited to see some great companies come in. So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
Go ahead and motion that we approve Resolution 2075 of the Planning Commission of the City of Indio, California, approving the planning review for the Golden Triangle Business Park Lots 9 and 13 project, case file number 2023-0605, for the development of a 27,500 square foot warehouse and office building, assessor's parcel number 611-126, 007 and 611-126-001, and determining that the proposed project is categorically exempt from the environmental review pursuant to Section 15332, infill development of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines.
I'll second the motion.
Can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Aisiono,
Yes.
Commissioner Fajardo,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Chairperson Rodriguez Ceja.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations. All right, we're moving on to no action items, so we'll move over to study session item 7.1, project consultation for LG Desert Store project.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kendra Reeve, Principal Planner, and tonight I'm going to be presenting the project consultation for LNG Desert Store and Fuel Project. The proposed project is located adjacent to the intersection of Jackson Street and Avenue 50. The project will be built on assessor parcel number 612-280-006 through 009. So it'll be built across all the parcels that you see on the screen with the exception of the parcel ending in 10. Currently, these are the existing site conditions. The applicant is proposing the demolition of the existing LNG Desert Store and the construction of a new 6,000 square foot LNG convenience store and an 8-pump fueling station. The applicant is also proposing the development of a drive-through restaurant and 2 retail spaces, one of which will house the flower shop currently adjacent to the market along Jackson Avenue. The proposed project would require a conditional use permit for the convenience market, fueling station, and drive-through. The proposed retail spaces are permitted uses. The project is required to obtain planning, review, and conditional use permit approval from the Planning Commission that is final unless appealed to the City Council. And the project will also need to demonstrate compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. The applicant is here for any further questions that you guys may have, and to get your feedback on their overall site plan and help answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Kendra. Just, can you clarify which portions of the project are, need to go through the special conditions permitting?
It's going to be the convenience market, the fueling station, and the drive-through. So it'll be the C-store that's in the center of the site plan, the fueling pump island that's to the southern portion of the project site, or western, and then the drive-through coffee location. So the flower shop and the retail shop are the only permitted uses outright on this property. The other ones will require a conditional use permit.
Great, thank you very much. Any other questions for Kendra? All right, we'll let the applicant come up and share more about their project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gabriela Marks. We are the architects for the project. I'm sure all of you know the LNG Desert Store. It has been a staple of the community for a very long time. And the upcoming improvements of Jackson and 50th have inspired our client to improve the property. He has outgrown the building, and that he needs to offer new services to his customers. The intent of this presentation is to show you our site plan and get some input on what concerns you may have, so we can have a little bit of a smoother ride during our entitlement process. And we put a lot of care into designing this project. We understand the type of customer that we have. We know that we have different type of customers at different hours of the day. We know that in the mornings we have a lot of service trucks. We know that we have a lot of large vehicles, a lot of people who get propane, and we need people that are going to be needing to park in different places. And the circulation of the site has taken into consideration the way that the operations of the store happen right now, and we want to make sure that we continue to take care of the customers that the store has right now, in addition to maybe obtaining new customers that are probably going to be coming of that are going to be taking place with the widening of the street. So we're here to answer any questions that you may have and to hear your input.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Any comments, questions? Please.
So is this the proposed, we just have this to look at, these two attachments, pretty much,
Yes.
to review? Okay. In regards to the demolition of the building, is there any historical significance of the building built?
There is no historical significance that we know of.
When was it, do you know what year it was built?
It was probably, no, we don't. Yeah, late 1950s. But we don't believe it falls into any of the categories that will make it a historically significant building.
Thank you, just a question.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I was actually sharing this with Kendra. To me, that was the point where I would cross over to Coachella as a kid. It was like, for me, that was like, LG's was that marker. I knew we had gone, far into India. The entryways, to me, have always been not the most successful because there's so many different entry points, and then there's this weird parking lot right off of Jackson that will stop traffic, right, as people are pulling out. So I'm curious, I know that you guys are probably like 30-40% through design, but have you considered, and what are your sort of what are you looking at to improve these entry points, and what are you doing in order to facilitate that traffic flow?
No, we have right now, the way the store is located, the cars actually pull into the store from Jackson Street and actually back straight into Jackson Street. So we're going to have a driveway that is going to be placed towards the north of the property. And so there's going to be just one entry point on Jackson Street, and there's going to be two on Avenue 50. And the one, so the way that driveway is located is to have the cars just come around the pump and go into the store, or just drive around and get their gas. So we're going to try to avoid cars backing into Jackson Street and avoid those traffic conflicts that you have right now. And also the driveway on Avenue 50 that is closest to the intersection is going to be just right in and right out.
Great. And I don't know if we're too early in this, but are we looking to do a traffic study to see how this type of development is going to affect this particular area? It's a pretty congested area as it is now.
So all of those traffic analysis, I believe, were already done when the street widening was studied by the city. And we have been talking to the traffic engineer, with the city traffic engineer about it. We're going to be doing an internal traffic analysis for the property, and that has been requested already by the city as part of our entitlement process.
Do you know what year that was when we did the traffic study there? Do you know how far back it went?
I think it was recent. Kendra probably knows.
I believe what the applicant is referring to is when we did our mobility plan and when they did the traffic impact analysis for that during our general plan update. So they're working with our consulting traffic engineer to outline the different parameters and check for compatibility with the mobility plan that was completed previously. Our consulting traffic engineer will require them, as she mentioned, to do another analysis that may be not as in-depth as one that you would see for a larger scale project, but it is something that will be required as part of the entitlement application.
And if I could add, just for the benefit of the public, the Avenue 50 project that's been referred to, that's actually a regional project that's being done in concert with the Coachella Valley Association of Governments. So that is a widening project that is occurring not only along this frontage, but along the Avenue 50 corridor from La Quinta to Coachella. So it's a regional project, and there is a regional partnership, if you will. Designs have been worked on for the entirety of that. That was the conversations that were referred to in terms of the Avenue 50. And as part of that, there was analysis done as part of that. And to an earlier question, if I could, by the chair, as a development project, the project will be required to demonstrate compliance to applicable design standards for the roadway classifications. So for example, Jackson Street has a roadway classification. It will be required to demonstrate compliance to that in terms of curbs, sidewalks, landscaping, and if there's any needed improvements to the actual right-of-way of Jackson Street, that as well. Avenue 50 is a part of that regional project, so that work will actually be done as part of the overall regional project along this particular project frontage.
And just a follow-up question, and thank you for that information. Just does part of that regional project include a four-way signal for that area?
So my understanding is that the traffic considerations are being looked at as part of that. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to your question, but we can certainly follow up with an answer to that, and that will be...
Yes, there is. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. Go ahead, no, please.
Yes, there is a traffic signal
Thank
going
you.
in there.
Thank you for that, Garlic, because one of the questions, and to the chair's sentiment, visiting the LG Market forever in my life, having picked up my flowers every Sunday and visiting the retail shops, so I do appreciate the newfound concept and shared similar concerns, but I am glad to know that during this regional widening that could address some of those primary concerns off of Jackson. So strategically speaking, off of Avenue 50, you have two primary entrances, and how do you take into consideration, now that you have additional revenue streams, namely your 8-pump station, to include that additional traffic? I mean, how much are we considering in terms of your projections? I'm just curious if that's something you've analyzed already or can provide to the Planning Commission for more input.
So the thought process is that we want to keep the delivery trucks separate from the customers, and that's why we have two driveways from Avenue 50. So we want to keep the trucks on the first driveway and just have them come in and out that way, and maybe the customers go closer to the pump. And also, if customers need to make a left turn, maybe they'll go on the second driveway rather than try, because otherwise they will have to go really far to make a U-turn. So we have been analyzing that as we're on our schematic design process.
Thank you for that, Gabriela Tocaya. One more question I may have for staff is, will there be a left turn lane into that driveway, or is there any existing thought that may consider for that left turn off of Jackson into the driveway?
That will be something that Public Works will have to answer once they submit for their formal entitlement application. Public Works will review that and then make a determination.
Yeah, it's a little early for that.
So I'm hoping that maybe you can speak. I see on this site plan that says dog park. So I'm hoping maybe you could talk a little bit more about any sort of features that might be made to the design of the property that might be accessible to the community. And then the other thing is the gas stations. We're currently doing, or we're in conversations about a study. There seems to be a pretty large amount of gas stations in the city of Indio as of now. This is further away from where we have most of the concentrations currently.
Right.
And so I'm hoping maybe you can talk to us a little bit more about what is this part of the project, one, and sort of how can I frame this? The market need that you see for this. What is behind this portion of the project, this proposition of the project that leads you to believe this is a need in this part of the community? So twofold, right? One is, can you talk a little bit more about the gas station part of the project, and then also, can you talk a little bit more about this dog park that I see on this site plan?
Well, regarding the gas station, the customers are already there. I mean, the store is very well known. It has a lot of customers, and it's an additional service to offer the customers that are already going to the market. Regarding the dog park, I mean, we love dogs. Dogs are great. So, I mean, we have customers already there. If you're traveling and if you're going to a festival, you need a place where to take your dog for a few minutes. You need to take a little break. A place where you can just take it for a few minutes that is safe. We're going to put some shade. We're going to put some trees. We're going to put little fake fire hydrants.
So this is an amenity for customers. It's not a public use. Like, this is not open to anybody who wants to go out and walk their dog. This is customers of the store. Is that correct?
I don't think there's going to be a dog park police there, but I think that if anybody wants to use the dog park can go there and take their dog, but it's mainly, an amenity for the customers, yes.
And the reason I ask is because there's a community right across the street from this that maybe wants to utilize the dog park. And so, maybe paying a little bit more attention to seeing how that could probably be utilized by the community as a larger community amenity might be a good strategy. And I know you're getting some feedback, so this is my feedback now.
Okay, sure.
Because I'll tell you, we're I think this is part of what we're doing, these types of projects that we're seeing with these special conditions of approval, I think really need to be adding more to the community. And so I'm very excited about a project that's coming into the area. I think it's very much needed. I'm very excited about LG's expanding, right? Like, this is such such an iconic area of our city, but yeah, I'm a little worried about the special conditions, and then so I'm trying to hear more about the thought behind why include these things that maybe are outside, or a little additional to the zoning, and then how can we add to this project with what you already have that could be of more direct benefit to the community to continue interacting with the folks that are already and have been there for a while.
No, absolutely. This is such a special store, and if we can do something to make it more special and to make it more invited for the community, we welcome your input. And that's the reason why we're here before we submit for entitlement, so we can hear you and we can see if there's anything that you want to contribute that we can incorporate.
Chair, if I could offer maybe a suggestion for the applicant, since the applicant may or may not be aware about the recent conversations the Commission's had regarding gas stations and convenience markets in the city. And the commission has had some preliminary conversations about the volume that we've seen over the last several years and whether there might be an interest on the part of the commission on making a recommendation to city council. What that recommendation is unknown. But I think what might help the applicant, and maybe for the benefit of the commission as well, is if you're able, in your formal submittal, should you go forward to maybe document proximity of existing convenience markets and gas stations in the area. That would help the commission perhaps answer the question, and knowing that this is areas you're on the edge of the city and relative proximity to other similar type operations in the area, just to document that and help the commission understand that. Pointed out, we have higher concentrations in other areas of the city. So that might be a good information piece for the applicant to include in their formal submittal.
Thank you.
So I guess I'm kind of used to when we see project consultations come before us. Can you share or have somebody from your team kind of talk about elevations and what style of architecture is going to be involved in this?
It's a little early for that, so we will bring those once we start working with planning on the building architecture. We have not developed those yet.
I have a follow-up
And Commissioner, it's
question, if I
not
may.
unusual at the project. Well, you have had the benefit of some applicants being further along, but for the project consultation, we typically don't require more than this information. Although we will always advise the applicant to submit that. And I think we've already advised the applicant of the modern contemporary thematic that the city has already been embarked on over the last several years.
Suggest next time we have that. Thank you.
Another question, Gabriela. Help me understand the flow of your drive-through, the proposed drive-through, and whether or not, obviously you had to consider stacking as a primary concern, especially if, from what it looks like, the egress of that drive-through might come out to Jackson Street. Is that accurate? And can you just talk us through that, please?
Yeah, it is accurate. One of the primary concerns was the stacking of the drive-through not interfering with the entrance points of the development. That is something that you see in a lot of developments, that one becomes too popular, it starts blocking driveways. So we wanted to provide sufficient stacking for it not to interfere with the circulation of the gas station, of the site, or any of the parking areas. That was the thought behind it.
And then a follow-up to that, will that be an opportunity for folks exiting, and it might be traffic again to answer this question, but I'll put it out there, will there be a right turn opportunity as you exit driveway 1? And the same question, if a left turn will be allowed coming out of that direction, or will it be both?
It'll be both.
Got it.
Okay, well, thank you for answering those questions. I guess we can talk about what we'd like to see. We've been spoiled in the past about getting further concepts, so thank you for what you've provided to us now. We're really excited. We our design suggestions or design standards, we're really modern, and that's what we're liking to see in the city. So we hope that your architect will take this into serious consideration. For me, what's very important, carbon sequestration, particularly when we're creating spaces for idle cars, like a drive-through. That's something that I think I will personally be looking at, making sure that our landscape plan is very robust. We have lots of trees, lots of shade. When we're creating space for idle cars, in our general plan, we're really trying to steer away from car culture, and a lot of the priorities in our specific plans throughout the city and in the general plan are really about walkability, connectivity, how we are creating spaces that are going to allow interaction with community. There's a large community right across the street that I think could also be customers, not only this, transient and the folks that are going to pump up in the morning and go off to work, but that there is an opportunity, I think, and I see some of those elements already in there with the coffee shop, the flower shop. I agree. I love that there's a flower shop there. And so how do we create those spaces and take those things into consideration, some of those values and the vision of the general plan update for the walkability, for carbon sequestration and to offset the environmental impact of the types of projects that you're proposing is what I personally will be looking at when you bring this back and do this design review. So that's really my suggestion. The other thing is really looking at not adding to the urban heat island, the types of materials that we're using across all of the different design elements is very important. We want to be a community that has and recognizes the challenges of climate change, and so we don't want projects that add more to that. We want projects that are really ahead and are taking all of those things into consideration. And so, we'd love to see what those priorities into mind, because I'll be looking at them very closely. So
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Nothing else? Great. We'll move on to study session item 7.2 from project consultation from Riverside County Office of Education.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Nicholas Catron, Planning Technician with the Community Development Department. Tonight, I will be presenting the staff presentation for the Riverside County Office of Education Project Consultation. The Riverside County Office of Education Facilities Expansion Project involves the development of a 33,000 square foot facility that includes a conference center, offices, warehouse storage, and a parking lot. This project includes a lot merger to combine the lots, to combine all the lots involved in the project. The property's current land use designation, as per the General Plan 2040, is Workplace Employment District, with the zoning designation in the Unified Development Code of Light Industrial. These designations permit the proposed administrative offices, conference room, warehouse storage, and parking lot. The proposed project is subject to the requirement of obtaining a planning review approval from the Planning Commission with an option to appeal to the City Council, and it must demonstrate compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. The project is located at the southeast corner of Dr. Carrion Boulevard and Calhoun Street, with the assessor's parcel numbers 612-170-001, 009, and 010. The proposed project location has a general plan designation of Workplace Employment District and carries a zoning designation in the Unified Development Code of Light Industrial. The existing conditions of the proposed project site has the current Riverside County Office of Education building, and the project is proposed to be within the adjacent surrounding vacant lots. The applicant has submitted a site plan showing the existing facilities building as Building A, as well as the proposed facilities building as Building B, and can be seen in the attached memo packet. The applicant is proposing drought-tolerant landscaping and has provided the landscaping plan also attached in the memo packet. This concludes my staff presentation. The project applicant is in attendance with a presentation and is available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead and...
Good evening. My name is Jessica Mears. I'm with the Riverside County Office of Education, and I'm the coordinator of facilities planning and construction. We have about 100 sites in Riverside County, and our main administrative sites are in Indio, Murrieta, and Riverside. And we are proposing to expand our Indio office on our adjacent lot with a new building to serve the staff and our educational programs in the region. So three services basically: additional administrative offices, some warehouse space to house some of the school supplies for our sites in the region. Currently our closest warehouse is in Riverside. We really want a space to serve this region. and then the meeting space and the conference space to serve the sites in this region as well. Our design team, which is the DLR group, who will walk you through the presentation and a little bit of the project details and finishes.
Hi, my name is Alex Gordon. I'm an architect with DLR Group and the lead designer. Before we get started, I'd ask that we elevate Nicole landscape plan portion of the presentation. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, this is our Riverside County Office of Education new facilities building. We're referring to it as the conference center because we believe this changes the slide, right? The right arrow. Okay. We believe that this is a significant community resource and architectural add to the city of Indio, and we're very excited about the design of this particular facility and its ability to be a resource. There we go. So we went over the location a little bit. I want to highlight the proximity to the city center. Indio City Hall is about a mile away from this location, and I also want to highlight in pink, light pink, there's two new developments going up similar to this, well, not similar to this project, but just in close proximity. There's a new West Coast storage directly north of our project. It's going to have some blue plaster materials. And then there's a new public safety campus down the street, which has some similar architectural elements that we think are nice and can relate to our project as well. Lastly, we're close to the 10, we're close to the 111, I believe. And we perceive Dr. Carrion Drive as sort of our main civic presence, and so we've oriented our building to be addressing that particular boulevard or that drive. In general, we know that the existing site is zoned as light industrial. We border residential and light industrial. Residential to the south and west, light industrial to the north and east, which tells us that our setbacks are to be 10 feet at light industrial, 25 feet at residential. We're in full compliance with the Unified Development Code there. I won't touch on the environmental analysis, but you can look at that. As we began to design this in conjunction with RCOE, we looked at several precedents within the community that really embody this contemporary style of architecture that we've noticed that Indio is very prolific for. We have the Indio Teen Center, which I have a couple images there, and the Indio Senior Center, which was done recently. And then I included an image of that kind of that Indio rock, which I think really embodies some of the presence of Indio within the desert communities. We really like all of the tone, texture, and elements within these buildings, as well as the structural expression. We think we can do something very similar that ties our building into the civic fabric. We also thought about the Torres Martinez Desert Cojuin Indians and their traditional dance moves that they perform at their yearly festival as we articulated the whimsicalness of the form of the community region element. We think that's something that distinguishes this building from these, but also has some similar materials. There's that public safety campus. We scalped a rendering online. I'll give Holt some credit here. That's their project. StoreQuest is to the north. That's an elevation from West Coast Storage that we scalped from the planning GIS. And then to the east, we have that white nondescript building over there. You saw some images of our site earlier. There's the northwest, west, northeast, and southwest sort of elevations there. You can see we have an empty lot. The existing building is type 3 CMU construction. There's warm tones and there's a combination of split face and fluted block with some white plaster and some very beautiful turquoise accents. We'll be proposing to probably paint those to match our existing building moving forward. And as you can see, in axonometric, north is sort of pointed down towards the bottom right of the screen, just to orient you. I can't read the assessor parcels numbers from here, but he did go over them earlier. We're proposing to merge all 4 lots on site, all owned by RCOE. You can see the existing building there. I mentioned that it's type 3 masonry construction. It's about 15,000 square feet. Our new building will be about 33,000 square feet. And again, we have offices, conference. I don't want to misrepresent this as a conference room. It's a conference center with dividable partitions to make 5 or 6 smaller conference rooms or one major large conference room that can accommodate almost 400 people. And the idea behind this conference room, RCOE has done one in Riverside already, is to be a community resource free to use for the local school districts that are kind of under the Indio umbrella. As they said, they have Murrieta, Riverside, and Indio, and all of the school districts in proximity would be able to use this for various events, professional development, career fairs, whatever it is, they can book it out, and it can also be used by the general community. I don't know if it's a paid thing, but I believe it's a resource. Couple other things. The warehouse is located to the south of the site. We're doing that purposefully because we, again, perceive Dr. Carrion Drive to be our front door to the facility. We perceive the main entrance to be off of Dr. Carrion Drive. So we're using the warehouse as sort of a back of house piece, and then there's a retention basin. Oh, here you go. So again, architectural forms elevating, addressing that Dr. Carrion civic presence and rotating a little bit to give some architectural feel to that building. And lastly, we'll have a retention basin over to the southwest of the site that should capture, or an infiltration basin, sorry, should capture all of the stormwater on site and runoff. We'll have 2 PV canopies over the south parking that should satisfy our CalGreen requirements as it relates to PV. There will be no PV on the roofs of the buildings. If you can see, we have an architectural element that sort of becomes the lobby, and behind that, we're using that as a mechanical well to hide all of our mechanical units from the street, so you won't see any of those. We also have screening at the south side, so you won't see any of that as well if you're parking in the back. Nicole, our landscape architect, will talk a little bit about the trees. This is not representative of our landscape approach. It's just representative of, it's just an axonometric view to give you a feel for what the project looked like. A couple more things to mention. We'll be doing some RCOE branding at that north facade, Carrion Drive. So when you drive in, you get a really a nice branded RCOE logo that happens on a perforated metal screen. We'll be required to do improvements along Dr. Carrion Drive, the Carrion Drive frontage for offsite improvements. So we'll be planning on doing that. We're aware of those, and we'll be in complete compliance with that for our project. One last thing is there will be a walking path around the site for anyone that's attending events here at this conference center, or anybody who's working in the offices or warehouse. I don't believe that's a community use component. There will be fences around this, so it needs to be a secure facility. I guess one last improvement, offsite improvement that we'll be required to do is undergrounding the electrical running north-south on Calhoun Street. That'll be a shared thing with West Coast Storage that's going in. I believe they'll be doing it a little farther to the north, so that'll happen as well. With regard to zoning compliance, we have a few requirements. I can't read my thing from here, but I will rattle off a few things. We know the 10-foot setbacks and are aware of those at the light industrial border. We're aware of the 25-foot setbacks at the residential zone border, and we're in full compliance with that on our site plans. We know that the maximum height for a light industrial zone is 55 feet. The maximum height of our building is 31 feet, so we're well within those requirements. The floor area ratio is 1 for your light industrial sites. We're at 0.16, I believe, if you merge the lots and account for both buildings, which is well within those requirements as well. If you just count the plot that it's on right now, it's actually 0.24, so either way, we're in compliance. This is another site plan. A couple things to note, and I wish I could run up there and show you, but there to the south of the warehouse, there's a truck dock that'll be happening. So you have the warehouse, and then southeast of the warehouse, underneath a canopy element there that happens at the south, there will be a truck dock that's hidden as well as possible with landscaping and a canopy. So that will be a component that's connected to the warehouse that's needed and necessary for that purpose. We will be in compliance with Cal Green as far as EV. We're adding 292 parking stalls to accommodate that conference center, and we will be shading those with PV panels and drought-tolerant trees and landscaping, keeping that in mind. I know carbon sequestration and shading are something that you're very interested in. So I'll touch on that a little bit later as well. And then, yes, as well as bicycle parking to the southeast of the building. Sorry, we've separated into 3 lots. There's a north lot and the south lot and the southwest lot. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on. You've heard me enough. I'm going to pass it on to Nicole Volpe, who is our landscape architect from Webb and Associates, and she's going to run you through the 4 quadrants of our site as it regards to landscaping, and she may have some questions for you as well. Are you there, Nicole?
Hi, good. Yeah, I am. Hi, good evening, commissioners and staff. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So as Alex said, thank you for your introduction. My name is Nicole Volpe. I'm with Albert A. Webb Associates. We're the landscape architects. And if you want to go on to our first slide, Alex, I can, there we go. I wanted to begin by introducing and describing some of the landscape character that we were starting off with as we started our concept for the planting design and the landscape design for this site. So we built from the existing natural Sonoran Desert and took inspiration from that natural landscape, and really, we're looking to the native plants that are existing in this landscape as inspiration, and as well for us to be able to include that as part of our drought tolerant and water saving measures. So you can see some of the inspiration imagery that we've pulled out with those 2 concepts in mind. And then on the bottom left, we're incorporating, as Alex mentioned, we have a circuitous pedestrian walkway throughout the site. And so these are 2 interpretations of outdoor seating areas that you'll see as we look at the site plan. And as Alex said, shade is very important, both for the users of the site, but also for the understory plants to be growing in the way that they should be growing. We wanted to point out, because the basin planting will have some frontage on Calhoun, that our inspiration photos really reflect some of the concepts that we were inspired by and adhering to in the Lush and Efficient Coachella Valley book that we reviewed prior to the design of this project. So I hope that gives you a sense of where we started from, and we can move on to some of the plant selections. So we wanted to have a range of materials. Primarily, we wanted to focus on drought-tolerant trees and understory shrubs and grasses. So we can see those on the left-hand side around the building to provide some variety in texture and form and color and lushness, as well as structure. We are using some moderate water use plants, and some of those, such as the date palms, the California fan palms, we'll look into those locations, but really they're meant to reinforce the architecture of the building and, again, give some variety in texture and form, really responding to the native or climate adapted plants for this region. That was really important for us. And also adding some color, but we'll get into a little bit more how we're using specifically those plants as we move on. And we can go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, and I will riff on Nicole that we do have existing date palms on site that we're riffing on as part of our continuation of the existing site.
Right, exactly. So in particular, along Dr. Carrion, we're responding to that in our streetscape design. And I will definitely point that out in the in our landscape plan. So I did want to really quickly touch on our hydrozone water use exhibit, which gives us a preliminary understanding of how much space we do have for moderate water use. Not using a lot of them, we're really focusing them on small areas around the building, but primarily you can see in the red and blue and purple areas, those are all low water use plant areas in the parking lot, planting areas. And we can go on to the next slide, please. So this is the first section which is the northeast area, the frontage of the building. And so this is really the prime frontage for the building, and we're responding to that in the landscape. We really wanted to provide shade in the parking lot and primarily using the palms to reinforce, again, the architecture of the building, but also what's existing on the street. And we will be doing some offsite improvements with the street trees and understory planting, which we're showing. We're showing in an interpretive fashion some color that we're adding to the landscape. You know, some of those trees, you will see some flowering, some change in leaf texture. On the perimeter on Dr. Carrion, we're responding to the development code requirements, which ask us to provide a 3-foot buffer, and we're doing that with our planting of the parking spaces. And then on the east side, we're also providing some buffering with some larger, taller shrubs in that area. There's some planting adjacent to the building, but primarily we're utilizing the planting to shade the parking lot areas. So we can go to the next slide. This area you'll see is in the central area where we're going to have the PV panels for the parking area. So we're not seeing as much tree shading, but the shading will be covered by the panels. So we're primarily focusing on providing shading and screening to the south property line. You can see where our pedestrian pathway, this is a section of it, is both shaded and also has a variety of different plantings supporting it. To the south of the building, there is an amenity area which responds to an inside break room for staff and users. And on the east side to the pathway, and we do have 2 trees there where we can make a little bit of space for some parking lot shading. And we can go to the next slide, please. So this is the southwest corner of the site. And so in the blocked out green area, that is where conceptually we're going to have the stormwater basin, just the basin. And what we're showing is that there's going to be both a bottom and a slope side to the basin. So we'll differentiate between the planting, but again, going back to the imagery that we used in the first slide, we're looking at building up a lushness to that area, again, using primarily drought tolerant and native plants. See a north-south continuation of the pathway, and we're using the trees to provide both shading for the pathway and for the 3 amenity seating areas that we have in this space, as well as for the parking area. We're also seeing the pathway to the south, so it crosses the driveway. One of the questions, as Alex brought up, for an area such as this that we had for the commissioners is whether or not we could just have trees in this parking lot, just in consideration of maintenance and survivability, because we are using lower water in this space. Instead of having long linear islands per the development code at 5 feet, if we could focus on 5 by 5 planting triangles instead, diamonds, excuse me, instead. So this could be something we follow up with discussion at the end of the presentation or now, as you prefer. We can move on to the next slide. We wanted to have.
Sorry, Nicole, can I add
yes, go
something to
ahead,
that?
please.
I think
Thank you.
We're trying to maximize our ability for community members to be able to attend events at this conference center. And by doing that, we're enabling ourselves a little bit more site area to constrict that 5-foot median. It gives us a little bit more site area to the south to give back to that walking path, which is part of the consideration for potentially eliminating those planting barriers in lieu of having those diamonds instead. Still having shade, less plants to water. Sorry, Nicole.
Thank you, Alex. That's very helpful. So moving on to the materials, we wanted to continue that concept of reflecting the surrounding native landscape, but additionally respond to the architectural materials. So we're using a variety of different gravels and boulders throughout the site. We're using decomposed granite where we've got our seating, outdoor seating areas, and in this image, in this section, we're showing that around the entryway, again, responding to that really strong street frontage of Dr. Carrion, we're upgrading the materials at the entrance with a porcelain paver, which is a stone look porcelain paver, as well as upgrading the surrounding concrete with a integral color concrete concept. And we can move on to the next slide, please. The pathway would be a continuation of the integral color concrete throughout the site. In the amenity area, what's shown at the top of this page, just to the south of the building, we're using a secondary type of porcelain pavers just to give some warmth and variety to that space there for the users. And we can go to the next slide, please. And so this is the area that is adjacent to the basin. We have, again, the concrete pathway, and these are the spaces that are called out as decomposed granite. So these would be shaded spaces with some boulders and some seating bench areas. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
So we saved the renderings for the end to excite you about the project. So I'll go through some of the views, and then we brought materials for you to look at, which we're hoping is fun for you. So this is that main entrance off of Carrion Drive, and you can see we've lifted that architectural element and secondary ancillary entry to not only address the existing building, but also address passerby or attendees of conferences or even just folks coming in for their everyday job. It gives a really nice street presence to the building off of Dr. Carrion when you come in there. I do want to point out, so this is a view, this is a little bit up close, but this is a view of the warehouse area. So that'll be a champagne colored precision CMU, and we've been experimenting with branding on that side of the building as well. Keeping in mind that as we're seeing this from the street, we're going to have a significant landscape barrier at that at the infiltration basin where Nicole has designed in a lot of that walking path and a lot of amenity spaces for the community. So you won't see this as much, but I wanted to show it to you so you understood some of the different angles of the building. We focused a lot of our energy here, which is the lobby and entrance to the building. So you can see that's kind of the highest point. That's about 30 feet. The ceiling in there is going to be a little bit higher. You'll have a nice backlit RCOE logo that will shine through that lobby glass. And we're using a brace frame system in conjunction with the CMU, with the building, to give this floating feeling to that mass. So you'll see glazing all the way from the lobby extending all the way to the west edge of the building, which we think is nice. With regard to structural expression, you'll actually be able to see the brace frame through that glass, similar to the Indio Teen Center, which we thought about as we designed this. You can see those date palms and some of those other shade trees there that really, I think, make it feel even more inspiring. And last thing to point out is you can kind of see there's a high point at the lobby signifying entrance. There's also a high point at the west edge of the building where people are entering and viewing that for the first time. Sorry, last thing, I keep going. The motif of the CMU is meant to relate to the existing building. So you see there's a fluted banding and there's split face CMU. Those are both champagne color from Angelus Block. And I mentioned I'd mention this later. These are a reduced carbon, reduced embodied carbon CMU block. So we're really thinking about our carbon footprint with the materials that we're using. That would be sort of your highest embodied carbon material in the project, specifically because it is concrete. So using a reduced carbon material we feel is the right thing to do. Another view of that lobby. Not a whole lot else to say about this view other than we're using east-west shading to mitigate some of the heat gain in there. There will be a lower solar heat gain coefficient glazing. We're not going to have super clear glass. It's going to want to be a little bit more tinted so that we're blocking some of the sun. You'll have a lower visible light transmittance, so that's fine. We'll show you what that looks like. And lastly, here's some of the material palette. I like to walk around forget the microphone is here. Here's some of the material palette. We feel it's very in tune with the environment, very much earth tones, gives you that presence and feel of desert contemporary, which we know is a staple of the community. You can see that split face champagne. The fluted block will also be split face, so that's the same material. And then the champagne precision, which you'll see on the warehouse, which is sort of back of house. Lastly, we're using an aluminum composite metal panel. We believe that's the best material to avoid oil canning in the hot Indio sun, as well as very related to that material, dark bronze anodized storefront, or just a bronze anodized storefront. And then we're using a Solar Band 90 Vitro Acuity glazing. And that's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. We're really excited about this project. We think it's a significant value add to the community, and really a significant design achievement for both our COE and DLR Group. We're excited to see it go up, and we're very much excited to hear your feedback.
Great.
But first.
Yes, please.
The rest are small.
Sorry to interrupt. My apologies for interrupting. My apologies. If we're going to have conversation, you need to speak into the microphone. I'm sorry, but we need to record.
Last but not least, the paint doesn't go we're only using a very limited capacity. There's small metal frames, so you won't see that very often, but that's related to the metal panels.
He said speak in the microphone.
Sorry. I thought you were talking to him. The paint.
Nope, to you.
Sorry.
One thing to
Yeah, I was just gonna echo that, because I am Assistant City Attorney Jillian Martins, and I can't hear the entire conversation if we're not speaking into microphones. So I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
You don't need to repeat, but if you're going to have any conversations, please, you can walk the material up, but just come back and speak to the microphone so that the public can hear our Assistant City Attorney, and then we also record it so we have a record.
Understood. I think one thing to mention to us, Beryl Mensonitis from DLR Group, project manager for this project, and we are very excited to work with our COE and the City of Indio for this project. One thing that to mention regarding the CMU block in terms of carbon footprint, there's actually a plant in Indio already, so you're just traveling, I don't know how many miles, 10 miles probably, to the plant. So in terms of that carbon footprint and that travel, we're already considering that as part of our design.
We're not pursuing LEED, but that is a lead point if you're interested. We're not pursuing LEED, but that is a lead point if you're interested.
So yes, if you have any questions or would love to get your feedback, we are starting our design development drawings right now, but I think, as you can see, the team has worked very hard into developing this project.
I do want to answer your question you had asked about, is this the same materials in our Riverside Conference Center? And it is not. Our Riverside Conference Center was adjacent to our existing building that was red brick, right? So we really wanted those two buildings to match. And so we modernized it a bit, but it was red brick. We didn't want to do red brick out here. We wanted it to be, significant to this region and these color schemes and your aesthetic out here. So this one is actually a very modern building for us.
I'd just like to say thank you. This is what I call a top grade this is a project consultation for me. So thank you for putting in the time on this. I really appreciate you doing the research and looking at all of the buildings and kind of matching and making sure that the architecture and being a great neighbor and a good partner with our city. Thank you. I love the fact that you brought up the bird singers and some of our Cahuilla Native American tribes around here and kind of melding that in with that, blending it in with that. And again, with the Dr. Carrion Drive and those enhancements, I think this is great. I really love the colors and your enthusiasm. So again, thank you for this great presentation. Nico, great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to also echo the same sentiment. Just really appreciate the opportunity for putting such a quality presentation together And certainly just understanding, I think from a cultural perspective, the native planting from the landscape, design all the way up to the architecture of the building. Really do appreciate you folks taking the time and doing your research for this value add to our community. And the fact that it's an educational, complex is bonus points. So thank you.
Yeah, it's the same. I want to say thank you. Obviously, a lot of thought was put into all aspects, including the architecture and especially the landscape design. I really do like the materials. It's kind of what we're looking for. I love the front facade facing Dr. Carrion. I like the elevations and the different heights and everything, and appreciate all the time and effort you put into that. Thank you.
Yeah, I do have a question, and I don't know if anybody here is for programming on the site, because currently, if I drive there, there's a giant gate, and I don't know if it's like public programs, resources, and so one is, what's happening to that gate? Are we doing anything about it? And then what types of the programs that exist there now, what types of programs are they public facing? Are these just specifically for, I want to learn more about what goes on. And then is this project part of expanding your current program services? And so that's my question.
Yeah, we actually have a variety of programs in our existing building. We have early child care, and we have alternative education programs. And so we don't actually have students on site, but these are the staff that are operating those programs at the various sites, the site staffs throughout the county. We also have some small meeting space there, and that's one of the reasons why we're looking to expand to a larger meeting space, because it's used a lot, and we can serve a lot more staff with expanded meeting rooms. We're also growing in terms of staff, and so that's why we do need the additional offices as well.
So this is not a public facility by any means. This is like staff that are doing public programs out and about. Is that correct?
Right. It's the intent. If you're asking about like the conference space.
I guess I'm really interested in the operations on the day-to-day and how this new development is going to either enhance or contribute or add.
So we do have the public that does come into our building to have meetings with staff, but it's mainly an administrative purpose. As far as the conference space goes, that will also be its main, first and foremost intent is to serve our staff and our 23 school districts within the county. Beyond that, we haven't exactly spelled out the details of if we open it up for, say, a wedding or something like that, right? We haven't spelled any of that out. Its main intent is for our staff and our school districts.
Thank you. Yeah, I said I'm going to take the opportunity to ask because I sometimes drive through there and I wasn't really sure what was happening there. I'm curious about there's a fence right around the building, and are we doing anything to the current fence that's there? How is it going to be either continued or taken off? Or, I'm just curious about.
Yeah. So on the existing side, we have wrought iron fence. Any chain link will be removed, and it would become wrought iron around the perimeter. The ornamental wrought iron fence. And it will be open during the day, business hours, and then at night is when we close those gates.
So I can add to that. We have an existing wrought iron fence around the entire north, even of the existing lot. It's all the same wrought iron fence. It's a Maristar montage too, if you're interested, as well as the west, all the way down to where the end of the plot is. Slot infill fences at the border of the east side where that nondescript white building was. And then there's an eclectic mix of wood and just chain link fences at the south side. And our proposal, or even our question, I guess, to this group would be, can we unify those as either a CMU wall or a wrought iron fence at the south and east portions? Any sense at all?
So the short answer is the Planning Commission has legal authority to obligate compliance with the city's fencing and wall standards for the applicant only. So the applicant could construct either the CMU block wall or an ornamental fence on their property. However, you cannot, as a decision-making body, mandate that the adjacent property owners change their fencing.
Got it. Yeah, and there was another during the presentation, a consideration. Can you speak more on?
Yeah, can we come back to that in just a sec? Nicole, can you speak to the landscape screening to the north on Carrion, if you're still on?
I am still on, yes, thank you. So did you want me to speak to the requirements, the development code requirements?
The requirements and what we're proposing.
Okay,
to
and
do.
what we're, sure. Thank you. So along Dr. Carrion, we do have some low shrub planting that would be at a maximum height of 3 feet. And so that would qualify and respond to the requirement for 3 feet screening of parking lots along that area. It sounds very dry, but in fact, we've responded to it in a way that is a very naturalized look. So we're using a variety of different shrubs with, again, textures and colors to create a screen without it looking, too artificial in a planted format.
Chair, there was another question, I believe, from the applicant regarding parking lot landscaping. So I don't know if the applicant got an answer yet or would like an answer.
And we can re-articulate the question. Let me go back to the site plan here. Sorry. So currently you can do the one with the trees. Okay. Sorry. So currently we're showing a 5-foot border between the dual parking stalls in the middle and the islands. And our question to you, the Planning Commission, is whether we can convert those into diamonds and constrict that area a little bit to give back to the walking path to the south without removing the ability of having shade trees in those areas, only removing the ability to have planting along that median.
I know that's part of our code, but is there a reason why we wouldn't consider those adjustments?
No, we can consider them. Yeah.
And just to add to what Kendra said, so if the applicant was seeking to reduce the percentage of landscaping, they would have to seek a variance. If the applicant is proposing an alternate design for the Planning Commission's consideration that still meets the landscaping overall requirement, percentage requirement, you can consider that as long as the overall effective landscaping as prescribed by code is still met. So a percentage reduction has to get your approval through a variance process, which is very difficult, purposely so, because you went through a hard process of establishing these standards for the benefit of the entire city. But you can consider alternate designs.
Okay, so this isn't really a reduction to what we have. It's just a change in the design in the way that they would normally go about it. And what we're doing here is almost like a value trade-off, right? We're adding because we want to contribute to the walking path. And so in order to do that, this is what we're considering. Am I understanding that correctly?
The short answer is yes, as long as they demonstrate overall compliance. But again, that delineation is if they want to reduce the amount of landscaping. That's where the commission would have to go through, or they would have to go and request a variance approval from the commission. But it doesn't appear that they're doing that. They just want to have an alternate design consideration based on the verbal comments.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Does anybody have any strong feelings against them moving forward with that?
I'd like to move that we consider providing the opportunity to have those alternate designs.
You cannot. This is project consultation. There's no
I know, but
opportunity
I'm
to make
just-
motions.
for the record,
but the applicant can note. That's noted for the record. I think the applicant heard.
Yep,
the
for the
commission.
record, that's my move.
And then the water retention center, the basin, where it's located, is that going to create any real change to that there's flooding? Like, is that part of your study, and is this the best location to do that?
That's a really great question for our civil engineer. What I will say is there is an existing basin, so the north rectangle of that portion is already an existing infiltration basin that is on site. We're proposing to expand it as part of our work, so we don't foresee any negative impacts of that infiltration basin. It'll be a 5-foot deep basin, right? And we'll be running all of our roof drains down underground through there. So I'm not qualified to totally answer the question, but I believe the importance is that, no, we don't believe there's going to be any negative impacts on the street frontage.
This is also something that they're going to be working with our Public Works Department on. So they're going to be required to retain all water on site. They're going to present those plans to Public Works for their review to ensure that there will be little to no impact. And also during their environmental review process, they'll be evaluating those impacts as well.
And I'll just add one additional bit of information, which is no development is allowed to create what's called adjacent properties or public rights of way. So, for example, their facility cannot be designed to overflow and create a flooding situation off-site, whether it be on private property or in the public right of way.
Thank you. Yeah, and as I think where this is coming from is wondering, because this is on the south end of the property, but the corner would be on the north side, right? If I'm understanding the perspective, right on Calhoun. So I'm wondering if the location, I hear that this is something that's already there, but I'm wondering if the location could be better serving for that particular street, if there's a way. I don't even know if that would be of benefit to us, but that's really where my question was. But I understand your engineer is not here, and we're probably not doing flood studies, but just that was my question, and that's where it's coming from.
So there were really two main considerations in the placement of this, and one, like he said, was because of where the existing retention basin is, and there's a cost savings to us by keeping it in the same location and expanding it. The other piece is we didn't necessarily want the retention basin to be at the front of the building, where we wanted, that main aesthetic appeal. So that was the other consideration about not putting on Dr. Carrion.
And Chair, just to note also, all applicants are required to submit a water quality management plan at time of their initial land use entitlement application. So that provides Public Works an opportunity to do a preliminary review on how they plan to do water quality management, both retention and release. And they do have options. They can either do an above ground facility or they can do an underground vault system. So they could have chosen, if they wanted to do an underground vault system and use that area for other purposes, but that's a business decision first and then a design consideration second.
Yeah, thank you. It was just a curiosity.
And just to add, we did have a pre-app meeting already with planning, Public Works, Indio Water Authority, and building design. So we do have those parameters that we need to design to. And thank you so much, Kendra and Nico, for being so cooperative in setting those up for us, and today too.
I'll also say during those meetings, we'll not be taking on any off-site water from Calhoun or Carrion into our basin. So this is just on-site. So we don't need to worry about all of that stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, yeah, thank you so much. These project consultations are what spoils us. Thank you. It was very thorough. And I think we're accustomed or at something this is not the standard. So thank you very much for all the thought. I think the design of the building looks great. I like the attention to the landscape plan. I think all of the elements are certainly there. I will be honest about that fence. It's not my favorite. I think it creates this island. It isolates the property a little bit. So I don't know, maybe something to consider. Because, again, what I was saying to the previous consultation, we really want to steer away from gated communities. We want to create the sense of walkability, connectivity, and every time I drive through that property, it's so isolated from me that because of that fence, that to me I know that you all are thinking about safety and all sorts of different things, but that's just, I had to say that comment because it's such a eyesore to me when I drive through there. So I'm just, sharing it with you all. But all the other elements and all the things you all brought to us, thank you so much. And it looks like a great project. And we're really excited to see you all continue serving our greater community. And we're doing the even more thorough design review.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yes, please.
As far as the fence, is there, I'm not seeing a situation where we're going to be able to eliminate it just for safety. Is there like a different color you might like more, like a bronze or something that we could potentially propose to satisfy some of those comments along the fence, or is it more just you want it gone?
I would like it gone, but and I'm not going to suggest a color because then if something goes wrong, then it's going to be red on me. So I would suggest maybe do a little bit of research. What's a color that might be a little bit less menacing than that dark color that we have right now? That would be my suggestion.
I'll also note that we're planning to reuse the existing fence on site, so we're just considering that when as opposed to like if we were to replace it, it would just be a cost to the project. So,
yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for entertaining. All right. Any other questions, comments? No. Well, thank you so very much. Thank you for taking the time and bringing this to us. We're always really excited to meet with all of you at this phase, and so we're looking forward to seeing the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. You don't want to leave the samples?
Oh, yeah, thank you. All right. We'll move on. Thank you for bringing all of these materials. Moving on to commissioner comments.
I would just like to thank for College of the Desert. Yesterday we had an update from our new president, Dr. Laura Hope, and kind of discussing a little bit about the plans for our college expansion. Chair was present. It was great to have our students involved too, in kind of discussing. And I guess we're going to be opening, I think, the Child Development Center pretty soon. I'm not sure, they just got the keys, right? So it's really exciting to see things moving forward in downtown, and really looking forward to kind of seeing this expansion come this way. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we heard at the meeting and know of the parking situation currently in this campus and how it's affecting our community. And so we received, we were told that they're really considering addressing the issue and willingness to work with the city of Indio with what property we do have, even though that some of the funding for the structure has been removed, but I didn't like the structure anyway. Okay, so yeah, thank you. Anything else from the commissioners? No? Okay. We'll move on to staff items.
I provided you guys with an updated schedule for upcoming Planning Commission and City Council meetings. The changes that were made from the previous version are noted in yellow, and the items that are in gray at the bottom of the page are items that are still to be determined with scheduling. We're booked out for Planning Commission and City Council until the end of January. So the ones that are in gray, we're going to be looking to add to our February meetings. So this is a schedule that you guys have. If you guys have any questions, like to know what prompted some changes, or want to know status on any of these items listed on here, I would be more than happy to answer them for you. And then I'm going to continue to update this as things progress, since this is a tentative schedule. And if I'll try to update it maybe weekly or bi-weekly if necessary, and get those copies out to you guys if there's any significant changes.
And when are we, I know I asked you this before, but do we know when we're doing the switch over to the new chair? And
That will take place at the December 13th Planning Commission meeting.
Just to make sure that I'm here. Thank you. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and adjourn our to the next Planning Commission meeting, Wednesday, November 8th. Thank you.